Welcome to the new video of NeuroPhilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin. The invisible prison of pleasing. You may not realize it, but piece by piece, moment by moment, you are dismantling yourself. It does not happen in one grand act of surrender but in 1,000 small choices, almost invisible, woven into the fabric of daily life. Every time you say yes when your entire being whispers no. Every time you silence anger behind a polite smile because you do not want to appear difficult. Every time you give away your time, your energy, your dreams, in order to avoid letting someone down, you build another brick in the invisible prison of self-abandonment. It is subtle, easy to miss, because society rewards it. People call you generous. They praise you for being reliable. They celebrate you as the person who never complains, who always steps in, who can be counted on. And perhaps part of you takes pride in this role. You tell yourself, I am kind, I am selfless, I am good. Yet deep down, if you pause long enough to listen, you might feel something else: fatigue, resentment, emptiness. For the truth is harsh. This is not generosity. It is not altruism. It is the erasure of the self. Carl Jung gave us a concept to understand this hidden tragedy: the persona. The mask you wear to move through the world, the version of yourself you present in order to be accepted by others. The persona is not inherently bad, it is necessary. We all need some kind of mask to function socially, to filter impulses, to communicate in ways others can receive. But when the mask becomes fused with your identity, when you forget that you are more than this agreeable version of yourself, you drift further and further away from your authentic core. Think about how automatic it has become. You enter a room, and without even knowing, your body begins to scan the atmosphere. You notice who looks tense, who seems irritable, who might be pleased. Your mind, trained like a radar, predicts reactions. You adjust your tone, your words, your very posture to fit what will be most acceptable. You laugh when expected. You nod in agreement when you are not convinced. You say what people want to hear, not because it reflects your truth, but because you are terrified of what will happen if you don't. Why? Because that look of approval, that nod of acceptance, that warm recognition, feels like proof that you belong. And belonging is a primal need. It reassures you that you are safe, that you still have a place in the circle. But here lies the hidden cost: in exchange for this fleeting sense of belonging, you trade away your own essence. Your vital energy drains out, your most precious resource, time, slips into tasks that do not nurture you. Your desires are postponed, your ambitions are muffled, your voice is silenced. This endless dance of harmony-seeking is exhausting not only because it demands constant performance, but also because it maintains a lie. The harmony you think you are protecting is not even real. It is a fragile illusion, sustained by your silence, your compromises, your denial of self. Beneath the surface, resentment builds, yours and perhaps even others. For no one can live forever behind a mask without cracks beginning to show. And yet, you keep going, unaware of how deeply the pattern has rooted itself. The cycle feels natural, almost inevitable. You believe you are doing the right thing, even as your inner life suffocates. But the moment you step back, you can begin to see the pattern for what it is: not kindness, not selflessness, but an unconscious survival strategy. One that has trapped you in the very prison you never knew you were building. This is the first truth we must face: pleasing others at the cost of yourself is not noble, it is self-destruction. Recognizing this invisible prison is the doorway to freedom. In the next chapter, we will trace how this pattern begins, not in adulthood, but often in childhood, where love, safety, and acceptance first became conditional. The roots of self-sacrifice. Patterns of self-abandonment rarely begin in adulthood. They are not choices you consciously make one day, they are scripts written long ago, often in the silent corridors of childhood. To understand why you now sacrifice your truth for the comfort of others, you must look back to when you first learned that your authentic self was not fully welcome. Perhaps you were a child with strong feelings. You cried loudly when you were hurt, shouted when you were angry, sulked when you were disappointed. But soon, you noticed how adults responded. Maybe they scolded you, "Don't be so dramatic." Maybe they dismissed you, "Stop crying, there's nothing to be upset about." Or worse, maybe they withdrew affection, leaving you with the haunting sense that love itself could be lost if you did not behave. Slowly, unconsciously, you adapted. You tucked away the anger, you silenced the sadness, you learned that to keep love, you must keep quiet. This is the cradle of self-sacrifice. Not a conscious virtue, but a survival mechanism. By being agreeable, helpful, and compliant, you found security. By being pleasant, you were rewarded. By being invisible in your needs, you were included. And so the pattern was born: if I erase myself, I will belong. Psychologist Alfred Adler described how human beings are driven by a deep impulse for belonging and contribution. This drive is not wrong, it is at the heart of what makes us social beings. But when distorted, it produces compensatory behaviors, ways of earning worth by bending ourselves to the group. Instead of living from your own values, you begin to perform for others, measuring your significance by how useful, available, or agreeable you are. The tragedy is that this distortion often happens before you even have words to describe it. A young child cannot say, "I am repressing my needs to maintain attachment." A child simply knows, "When I am easy, I am loved, when I am difficult, I am punished or ignored." And so, without realizing, the child trades authenticity for acceptance. That child grows up, and becomes the adult who smiles when exhausted, who agrees while seething inside, who takes pride in being endlessly dependable while quietly fading away. Over time, this pattern takes on a life of its own. You begin to anticipate others' needs before they are spoken. You notice tension in the air and rush to smooth it out. You read micro-expressions on faces, detecting even unspoken disapproval, and you respond instantly, offering help, comfort, solutions. To the outside world, this looks like empathy. And to a degree, it is. But beneath it lies fear, the fear that if you fail to please, you will be abandoned. Each yes given against your will reinforces the role you have been assigned, the good one, the helper, the selfless friend. And the more you play this role, the harder it becomes to step out of it. Because now, others expect it. They come to rely on your endless availability. They assume you will always adjust, always forgive, always carry the weight. And when you finally dare to hesitate, to say no, you feel not only their disappointment but also the crushing weight of betraying the very identity you have built. This is why breaking the cycle feels so impossible. It is not only about disappointing others, it is about shattering the image you have of yourself. The image of the reliable one, the selfless one, the strong one. To betray that role feels like betraying your very existence. And so you keep going, smiling, giving, adjusting, while quietly erasing yourself. But deep down, the cracks are showing. There is a fatigue that no amount of rest can heal. There is resentment disguised as politeness, a muffled voice within you screaming for freedom. And though you may not yet realize it, this is the voice of your authentic self. It is waiting for you to listen. To break this cycle, you must understand what keeps it alive. The answer lies in the persona, the mask you built long ago to keep yourself safe. In the next chapter, we will look closely at this mask, how it became fused with your identity, and why it continues to dominate your life even when you desperately wish to be free. The mask of persona. By now, the pattern is clearer. You have spent years shaping yourself around the needs and expectations of others. But why does it feel so difficult to stop? Why, even when you realize the cost of your sacrifices, do you continue to repeat them? The answer lies in a powerful psychic trap, your persona. Carl Jung described the persona as the social mask we all wear to face the world. It is not inherently bad, in fact, it is necessary. Without some kind of mask, you would be like a child blurting every thought, expressing every emotion raw and unfiltered, unable to navigate the complex demands of social life. The persona serves as a bridge between your private self and the collective, allowing you to function within groups, communities, workplaces, and families. The problem begins when the mask fuses with your identity. Over time, you stop seeing it as a role you play and begin believing it is who you are. This is the danger of over-identification with the persona. Instead of being a flexible tool, it becomes a prison. Think about your own life. Each time you were agreeable, helpful, or accommodating, you were rewarded. Praise, smiles, inclusion. But every time you expressed anger, asked for too much, or showed disappointment, you were punished, through rejection, criticism, or silence. The lesson repeated itself so many times that it carved itself into your nervous system. It is safer to be what others want me to be. And so the mask grew. Perhaps yours is the mask of the strong one, always reliable, never needy. Or the mask of the kind one, endlessly generous, incapable of anger. Or maybe the mask of the problem solver, constantly stepping in to rescue others at the expense of yourself. Whatever form it takes, this mask has defined how others see you, and how you see yourself. The tragedy is that the mask is not false, it reflects part of you. You may indeed be kind, strong, generous. But it is not the whole truth. Beneath the mask lies the rest of you, your unmet needs, your frustrations, your boundaries, your desires. And the more you identify with the mask, the further you drift from these repressed truths. The persona is seductive because it offers safety. It shields you from conflict. It protects you from rejection. It ensures you remain part of the group. But this safety comes at a price. To maintain it, you must silence your shadow, the parts of yourself you fear others will not accept. Anger, selfishness, defiance, vulnerability, these are all locked away so that the mask can stay intact. And yet, the mask is fragile. It requires constant effort. Each day you must predict others' needs, manage impressions, suppress impulses. It is exhausting, and over time, it leaves you hollow. Anxiety, resentment, and even depression often appear in people trapped behind personas. For no human being can live authentically while hiding half of who they are. This is why change feels impossible. You may try to assert yourself, to say no, to set boundaries. But guilt and shame surge immediately. You fear rejection. You feel you are betraying not just others' expectations, but your very identity. So you retreat. You smile again. You say yes again. You put the mask back on. True transformation requires more than forcing yourself to be assertive. It demands that you recognize the mask for what it is, a role, not your essence. Only by seeing the difference can you loosen its grip. And to do that, you must face what the mask has been hiding all along, your shadow. In the next chapter, we will confront the force that keeps the mask glued to your face, the deep, unconscious hunger for acceptance that began in childhood but still governs you today. Until you see this force clearly, the mask will never fall. The force of acceptance. Now that you see the mask, the question remains, why does it cling so tightly? Why, even when you know it suffocates you, does it feel impossible to take it off? The answer lies in a force so deep, so primal, that it shapes much of human behavior without us realizing, the craving for acceptance. This desire is not superficial. It is not about enjoying compliments or feeling good when someone smiles at you. No, it is far older, rooted in survival itself. As children, acceptance was life. Belonging to the family circle meant safety. Rejection, neglect, or abandonment, whether real or imagined, felt like danger. Our nervous systems evolved to treat disapproval as a threat. A frown, a sigh, a disappointed tone of voice could feel like the world collapsing. That programming, etched into the body long before reason fully developed, does not vanish just because we grow older. It remains active, shaping how we respond to others even decades later. This is why a simple "no" can feel like a crime. Why setting a boundary can stir panic. Why someone's disapproval, even in something small, can feel unbearable. To your adult mind, it is just a moment of conflict. But to your nervous system, it is survival on the line. Alfred Adler, the Austrian psychologist, described this in his theory of individual psychology. He believed that human beings are driven by two fundamental impulses, the need to belong and the need to contribute. When balanced, these drives create healthy communities and strong individuals. But when distorted, they create compensatory behaviors, desperate attempts to secure belonging by sacrificing authenticity. And this is where the force becomes dangerous. You begin to equate your worth with the approval of others. You convince yourself, if they are happy, I am safe. If they are disappointed, I am worthless. From this distorted lens, your life becomes a never-ending attempt to meet imagined expectations. You measure each word, each gesture, each decision by how it might be received. And in doing so, you abandon your own inner compass. Ichiro Kishimi and Fumite Koga, in The Courage to be Disliked, call this living the tasks of others. Instead of tending to your own responsibilities, your growth, your truth, your choices, you live to fulfill what you believe others demand. It is a losing game, because no matter how carefully you play, you will never win. Someone will always disapprove. Someone will always expect more. Someone will always misunderstand you. And here is the cruel irony. The harder you try to control others' perceptions, the more anxious and hollow you become. For the truth is, you cannot control them. You cannot script their thoughts or guarantee their approval. The very attempt traps you in a cycle of exhaustion. Consider how this shows up in your daily life. Maybe you answer messages immediately, even when you are drained, because you fear being seen as rude. Maybe you agree to favors you resent, because you cannot bear the thought of disappointing someone. Maybe you work long hours, sacrificing your health, because you imagine your worth depends on proving yourself. In each case, the force of acceptance is at play, an invisible engine powered by guilt, fear, and shame. And that is why change feels so difficult. Intellectually, you may know you should set boundaries, rest, say no. But the moment of truth comes, and the old emotions surge, guilt, shame, fear of rejection. These feelings are not logical, they are ancient, wired into the very core of your being. Until you learn to face them, the cycle continues. Here lies the turning point, understanding that the craving for acceptance is not truly about others. It is about you, and the shadow you have avoided all along. For as long as you believe your worth depends on pleasing others, you will remain enslaved. To be free, you must confront the shadow, the hidden parts of yourself you have long repressed, the emotions you were taught to fear, the truths you buried to protect the mask. In the next chapter, we will walk into that shadow. It is not an easy journey. It will require courage to face anger, selfishness, and desires you thought were shameful. But only in meeting these rejected parts can you finally begin to dismantle the force that keeps you chained to the mask. Confronting the shadow. You have traced the cycle, the prison of pleasing, the childhood roots of self-sacrifice, the mask of the persona, and the deep hunger for acceptance. Now comes the most difficult step, the confrontation with what you have hidden the longest, your shadow. Carl Jung described the shadow as the collection of all the parts of ourselves we repress, reject, or deny. It is the dark cellar of the psyche, where everything we were told was unacceptable is locked away. But here's the paradox, the shadow is not evil. It is not a monster to be destroyed. It is made of real, authentic pieces of you, pieces that you buried not because they were worthless, but because you believed they were dangerous to show. Think of your anger. As a child, when you expressed it, perhaps you were punished. You learned that anger made you bad, so you swallowed it down. But unexpressed anger does not vanish. It turns into resentment, simmering quietly until it bursts out in ways you cannot control, or, more often, until it poisons you silently from within. Think of your frustration. You may have wanted things, demanded space, craved attention. But if you were met with criticism or rejection, you taught yourself to be quiet. That frustration did not disappear, it became fatigue, apathy, even depression. Think of your selfish desires, the wish to say no, to rest, to put yourself first. You learn to associate these with guilt. Good people don't think like that, you told yourself. And so you buried them. But each time you silenced these desires, a little more of your vitality drained away. This is the shadow, the living record of your denied truths. And the longer you repress them, the stronger they become. The shadow does not vanish just because you refuse to look at it. In fact, Jung warned that, what you resist not only persists, it grows. Every unacknowledged emotion becomes more powerful the more you avoid it. Here is the cruel irony, every time you say yes when you mean no, you are not only pleasing someone else, you are also feeding the shadow. You are telling yourself, my truth does not matter. My needs are not important. And each repetition strengthens the split between your mask and your authentic self. So how do you face the shadow? The first step is recognition. To admit, yes, I have anger. Yes, I have selfishness. Yes, I want boundaries. Yes, I need to say enough. This does not make you cruel. It makes you human. Accepting these truths does not mean acting them out recklessly. It means acknowledging that they exist, giving them a rightful place in your psyche instead of banishing them to the basement. But here's the challenge, the moment you begin to honor these repressed parts, powerful emotions will rise. Guilt. Shame. Fear. The guilt of saying no. The shame of disappointing others. The fear of being abandoned. These emotions are the gatekeepers of the shadow, the very feelings that kept you from facing it in the first place. Most people retreat here. They taste the discomfort and run back into the safety of the mask. But freedom lies in moving through, not away. These emotions are not enemies. They are signals. When guilt rises, it means you are breaking the old pattern. When fear appears, it means you are stepping out of the old prison. When shame burns, it means you are challenging the lies you were taught about yourself. To endure these emotions without surrendering to them is the very act of reclaiming your life. Jung called this the path of individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not by destroying the shadow, but by integrating it. By admitting, I am not only light. I am not only the mask. I am both. And in that wholeness lies freedom. If you can walk through this confrontation, something remarkable begins to happen. The anger you feared becomes a source of power. The selfishness you denied becomes healthy boundaries. The frustration you buried becomes creative energy. What once felt like poison becomes fuel. But integration does not happen in theory, it requires practice. In the next chapter, we will turn to practical strategies for breaking the cycle, tools to help you say no without collapsing, to set boundaries clearly, and to build relationships that honor your authentic self. This is where theory becomes action, where inner freedom begins to take root. Breaking the cycle and reclaiming inner freedom. You have walked through the prison of pleasing, uncovered its roots in childhood, examined the mask of the persona, recognized the force of acceptance, and confronted the shadow that hides beneath. Now comes the most vital question: how do you break the cycle? How do you move from insight into real transformation? Awareness is the first step, but awareness alone is not enough. You can understand the theory perfectly and still find yourself saying yes when you mean no, smiling when you are seething inside, giving when you are already empty. The mind learns quickly, but the body and emotions are slower to change. They are wired with habits and fears built over years. To break the cycle, you must create new experiences, small, deliberate acts that retrain your system and gradually reprogram the way you respond. The first strategy is what I call the conscious pause. Whenever you feel the reflex to please, when someone asks a favor, when you sense disapproval, when guilt begins to rise, do not answer immediately. Stop. Take a breath. Count to 60 if you must. Allow the discomfort to surface, the fear of rejection, the guilt of saying no, the shame of disappointing. Instead of fleeing, observe. Tell yourself, this is just an old response. It does not control me. That single pause creates space between the automatic pattern and your conscious choice. The second strategy is the practice of no. Start small, in situations with low stakes. Decline an invitation you do not want to accept. Delay a reply to a message. Tell someone you are not available for a minor request. Each time you do this, notice the surge of guilt and let it pass without yielding. Over time, these small acts train you to endure discomfort and build the muscle of autonomy. The third strategy is to reevaluate your relationships. Look closely. Are there people in your life who constantly push against your boundaries, who take advantage of your pattern of pleasing? These relationships keep the prison intact. While you cannot change others, you can choose who you give your time and energy to. Begin shifting your focus toward relationships built on respect, reciprocity, and authenticity. Even if it means reducing contact with certain people, your freedom is worth the cost. The fourth strategy is clear communication. Often, people around you do not even know your limits, because you have never voiced them. Begin practicing simple, direct phrases without over-explaining. I can't do that right now. That doesn't work for me. I need time to think. Resist the urge to justify excessively. Boundaries are not arguments to be defended, they are truths to be respected. Finally, celebrate small victories. Every time you honor your time, energy, or truth, acknowledge it. Write it down. Tell yourself, I am learning to live authentically. These small recognitions reinforce the new pattern and remind you that progress is being made, even when it feels slow. Understand this, breaking the cycle will not be a clean, straight path. There will be days you slip, moments you find yourself pleasing again without thinking. Do not shame yourself for these setbacks. Instead, treat them as opportunities to notice the pattern more clearly. Change is not about perfection, it is about persistence. Each step, each pause, each boundary builds the foundation of a freer self. And here lies the most liberating truth: caring for yourself is not selfish. It is the opposite. When you live authentically, when you honor your needs, your limits, your truth, you create relationships that are real, not based on fear or manipulation. You allow others to know the real you, not the edited mask. Some people will resist this change. Some may even leave. But those who stay, those who honor your wholeness, will be the ones worth keeping. The journey you are on is called individuation, the process Jung described as becoming whole, integrating both light and shadow, persona and self. It is not a path of pleasing, but of truth. It requires courage, patience, and practice. But the reward is greater than any fleeting approval, it is inner freedom. When you no longer live to control the perceptions of others, when you can face guilt and shame without collapsing, when you can say yes and no from a place of truth, you finally belong not to the crowd, but to yourself. And that, above all, is the freedom you have been longing for.